Well, hi, everybody. It's Sharon O'Brien again for our One Small Step program, Making Habit Change. I am the Community Wellness Director here at the Mandel JCC, and I'm here with Karen Booten, who is my co-teacher for this class, and we are both health and life coaches. We're thrilled to be here today, and we have over 30 years experience between us. Karen, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, as Sharon said, I'm Karen Booten. And first, I want to thank the Mandel JCC for inviting us to be part of the Wellness Work Week. And I come to this group with 6 years of holistic health experience. And as Sharon mentioned, life and health coach.
So we're going to get right started. So we're going to be talking about habits. And as you may know, habits are the #1 determiners of your quality of life. So when you change a habit, you change the course of your life. And actually, that sounds really daunting to think that one little habit can change the course of your life. But if you think about it, it can be true for sure. And I'm going to use an example of brushing my teeth. So at a very young age, I learned to get up in the morning, and right after breakfast or before I left the house, at the very least, I would brush my teeth. And if I was home at lunch, I'd have to brush them. And then, of course, at night, I brush my teeth as well. So, you're at least brushing them a couple times a day. If I didn't do that, it would lead to my teeth being decayed, receding gums, bad breath, yellowing teeth. And what that would then lead to is me spending a ton more money on dental bills, teeth getting pulled. My relationships might be poor because I have bad breath. I would have pain in my mouth potentially. My teeth could be rotting and falling out. My confidence would be lower. My self-esteem would go away. So there's so many things just by that one habit of brushing my teeth that are for sure affecting or could affect my quality of life. And ultimately, if my quality of life is not at its best, then I really want to work and do what I can to get to that point. So when you change that habit, you can for sure change the course of your life.
Okay. Studies show that 45 to 95% of our behavior occurs out of habit, either unconsciously or in reaction to external demands. As Sharon was talking about her habit of brushing her teeth, I don't even think that most people think of that as a habit, but these rituals are indeed habits. So a ritual that I have is every morning I get up and I drive to work. I do the same thing every day. Leave my house, get in my car. I take the same route every day. It is a habit. It's a ritual, part of my morning. That's a unconscious behavior. What happens if I'm driving along and all of a sudden I see flashing red and blue lights? All of a sudden, boom, I slam on my brakes. And that is what goes through your mind. All of a sudden, you are not just spacing out, driving to work like you usually do and wonder how you get there sometimes. You have to switch gears. And then it becomes a conscious decision. I would have to look, I would have to reevaluate and find a new route. And that is breaking my habit, breaking my ritual. They are the little rituals that you do every day are your habits. Going to the bathroom and brushing your teeth when you first wake up, getting sleepy around 3 p.m. and reaching for a caffeinated pick-me-up or a candy bar, some kind of snack to get you around the bend, or taking your dog for a walk after dinner or in the morning. Eating pizza 5 nights a week might be a habit or a ritual that you have. Sharon, would you like to?
What's that? Talk about my rituals?
Yes. Besides brushing your teeth.
Well, so, one of the rituals I have during the day is when I choose not to drink coffee during the week. And I still love a little caffeine, but I choose not to do that just because I wanted to stop to having extra fat. And I love cream and sugar in my coffee. So one of the habits that I changed a long time ago was not having coffee during the week. So it's like a little it's a special occasion on a Saturday and Sunday when I have my coffee in the morning. It's like a treat for me. So my ritual now is I get up and, have my morning routine. But when I come to work, I make some green tea. And I have a green tea as I'm going through emails and getting my morning started. And that's kind of a little ritual that I really like. So it's almost like a gift for me when I get into work. I make my little tea and then I'm starting my day. And everyone has their own little rituals that they do, and figuring out what is the best for you and what you might want to change is where we're at today. So the definition of a habit is actually a behavior that becomes automatic with little or no conscious thought. And Karen already talked a little bit about that, how, it's like the little rituals that you have every day. And I'd like you to think about the habits that you have that might be good habits or that might be bad habits, even maybe thinking of a couple good habits and a couple bad ones, if you want to do that right now, and even jot them down. An example of a habit might be biting your nails. It could be washing your hands before dinner. It could be washing your hands all the time now. Right. It could be getting into the bed on a certain side. It could be anything. Kara, you have a couple habits for us?
I think sometimes people, when you hear the word habit, everybody automatically thinks negative. That's what I found in my interactions with people. Habit, you think eat too much, smoke too much, or drink too much.
Yeah.
Well, a habit is a ritual. And when you start thinking about it a little bit more and making lists, it's very interesting to see the different things that you are doing. And when you write it down, it's a little bit more easier to see what things you might want to change.
Yeah, for sure. So what makes it a good habit? A good habit is something that's going to contribute to the quality of your life. And a bad habit is something that would be more of a detriment to your quality of life.
Some habits are health promoting and some habits are health destroying. So a good example of health promoting, of course, we could go back to food, eating whole foods. That's health promoting, trying to eat something in the form that it's closest to nature. For example, a banana. Some habits that are health destroying could be reaching for things that are more, I can't even think, for snacks that are more packaged. There's more sugar, there's more sodium. So
like a Twinkie.
Promoting helps you feel good, and you know it because after you eat these things, you feel good. And health destroying are things that kind of, you eat it in that moment and then it kind of drags you down. So it's kind of destroying your health.
So we haven't really talked about beliefs at all yet. But when you think about your beliefs and what you've learned throughout your life, you can completely change your experience. Did you have an example of this, Karen?
Yes, I do. Growing up, when I was young, my parents were first generation Americans, European descent. And food was a big part of our day. And when you sat down to a meal, from a very young age, you learned that you clean your plate. Cleaning your plate meant it didn't matter what kind of day you were having. If you and your friend got in a fight, or you were feeling not so great, or you were sad, there was no, you had no involvement in your choice of what you had to do. You had to clean your plate. A lot of times feelings would come in where you would feel guilty. Both of my parents grew up and my father was very poor. My mother was a little bit better off, but do not be ungrateful. So guilt would come in. So you cleaned your plate, and that became part of my habits. as you get older, you keep doing this, even when you have your own choices and you're out to dinner with your friends and you're a young adult, you clean your plate, even when you're like, this is not so great, or even when you're full. So beliefs and habits are interchange, and you don't realize again until you start thinking about these things, how you grow up or your culture and background affect things.
Absolutely. So sometimes the intention, like even that example from our parents, was to nourish us and to have good food. But you end up just eating too much, and you didn't have a say in it. So if you shouldn't be hard on yourself. I think that's what we're trying to say is you are grown up a certain way and your culture brings you along with certain things, and you start to say the same things your parents say, as we all know, but your beliefs do create thoughts. The thoughts come into feelings, and Karen was saying she had the feelings of guilt for not eating everything on her plate. Certainly I know that my parents were the same way, and if I'm out at a restaurant, I have a doggy bag for sure all the time. And feelings create behaviors. So those behaviors, they stick with you. So finding what you might be able to do to change that a little bit, like, for example, bringing that doggy bag home from a restaurant, not eating everything on my plate, and maybe changing what your behavior is at home. So with my own children, I felt the same way, that I wanted them to eat everything on their plates. But, we started having people choose how much they want on their plate. And for that made a big difference. Then you're not wasting it. And those behavior changes can make a change with your results. So everything really plays into our habits, into our lives. So before we talk a little bit more about goals, I want everyone to just take a nice deep breath and look at this beautiful beach scene that we have coming in front of us. I love it.
That's one of our goals, to get there.
It is. So, we talk a lot about making changes, but when you are actually present, you can think more clearly about everything. So anytime you're making a habit change or having a difficulty, if you can step back and take a few breaths. So I'd like everybody to actually close their eyes and take a nice deep breath. And then a couple more on your own. So when I'm taking those breaths, I'm hoping you felt the same way. It's a way for you to really become grounded. When you're grounded and you're in the present moment, then you're not worried about what happened earlier today or what's going to happen after we're done with this meeting. You are present in the moment, and it makes it a lot easier to focus and to give yourself clarity. So when we move on to talking about goals and habits that we might want to change, it's really important to be present and to not be worried about other things around you, to really be focused.
And I was going to say about taking a breath when we're talking about beliefs. There is a good belief that came from a lot of our childhoods. And if you remember getting upset, your mom or your dad might say, take a minute, take a breath, when you came in the house and you were all upset. So those are the things that came from our past that we have to start going back to. Mind what you say, mind your words, take a breath. So that's a good example, Sharon, taking a breath. It only takes a few minutes, and it's moments, and you could do that at work, in your car, or anywhere. Great practice.
For sure. So I want you to think about what your goal might be. So we've talked a lot about habits, but ultimately, before you change a habit, there has to be a goal for you, a purpose, a reason why you want to change a habit. So the goal is the bigger piece. And when you're setting a goal, you want to try to make sure that it is a SMART goal. Um, do we want to talk a little bit about a goal? Do you have a goal, Karen, that you want to
Oh yeah, I always have a goal.
kind of go through it?
Yeah, sure. My goal is to get more sleep.
Okay.
Go to bed earlier, I should say.
Okay.
Definitely.
So when we are talking about a goal, we want it to be specific. So Karen wants more sleep. So what's more sleep to you if we're getting more specific?
I would like to about a half hour, just
Okay.
getting in bed, turning off the light, at least a half hour would make a big difference.
Okay, for sure. And that's a measurable goal too. So you said a half an hour more sleep every night. You're going to make it attainable. How are you going to do that?
I am going to, I think Sunday through Thursday, I've thought about, because those are the work nights. I think that I'm able to go to bed earlier. 30 minutes shouldn't be a hard time. On the weekends, it's not as critical, but during the week, for sure, that's what I would start with.
Okay.
Like a Sunday through Thursday.
That's awesome. So you're making it attainable too by just, giving yourself specific days. And then is it relevant?
Oh, it's absolutely relevant. I need it to make myself feel good and to have energy through the day and to make my mind more clear, to focus. Definitely.
Yeah. And then you gave us a time frame of Monday through Friday. When do you think you want to start that?
I would probably start this Sunday. I like to start on Sunday. First day of the week, start on Sunday. And I think for me, that works.
Great. So anybody who is thinking of a goal, really try to think if you can make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and have a time frame to it. That's really important.
Yeah, measurable is key. Saying SMART is right on the money, because you don't want to. If I said I'm going to go to bed 2 hours earlier, the chances are at 2 hours earlier is just not feasible. Just can't do it. But any little bit that you do can help. And maybe I'm hoping if I do 30 minutes, it might turn to 45 or even an hour at some point. But you start with something, definitely that is attainable.
Yep. Again, those small steps.
These are things to set you up for success. Commit 100%. Like the example I just gave, I'm going to commit 100% because, and it's something I want. That's a big part of changing habits as well. It has to be something that it's a very personal thing, and it's something you have to want. You have to want it more than your husband or your wife or your partner or your kids. And I definitely want more sleep. Take consistent small steps over time. When we talked about the time frame, 30 minutes is, I could do it. I don't have to be thinking all day long. Oh, I have to squeeze everything in. 30 minutes for me, for this example, is good. Adult learning is different from how we learned as kids. We can learn from our experience of what has worked and what hasn't worked. Take your experiences, think about what you've done in the past, how you grew up. Again, your parents or whoever brought you up, your family you were in their best interest, but you can change things and make them work for you. So you take that experience and you move ahead. And then unrealistic versus realistic expectations. All of us have been there at one time or another where we want to get healthy and lose weight. And we start on January 2nd, not the 1st, and we want to lose 50 pounds. Well, that is a lot to put on yourself. I mean, it took a while to get where you are, or it could be somebody that wants more muscle or doesn't even have to do with that. They want to get more organized. You just make it realistic, and only you know what is realistic for your life. And then embrace community, have accountability. Sharon and I always talk about that with each other. You try and find somebody that can hold you accountable to help you with your success. And it might not be a family member in your house, it might be a coworker, might be a friend, might be somebody that you run into at the library that you talk to all the time. Talking to different people, somebody that is going to embrace and hold you accountable is key.
Yeah, and you need that support system too. So I was even thinking of your sleep example, Karen. So if your kids are banging around outside the door, then you're not going to be able to fall asleep. So, making sure people know what you're trying to do as well, and getting support from them as well is so important. So the other thing is it's really important to have a motivating factor. So, what is your motivation behind this? So I want you to think about some other questions to make sure that you're going to be successful and finding that motivation. Why do you want this goal? So for Karen specifically, she wants to feel better and sleep more. Why else would you want this goal? She mentioned having more clarity. What will having this goal do for you? Karen, you wanna?
Oh yeah, I'm more energy. You mentioned clarity, just to decompress from the day, and having more energy is key to anything that you're going to do the next day. So one thing, it's the foundation for the next day, and having more energy is definitely going to help me succeed in all the different facets of my life.
Yeah. And you have to also think of what is important about that. What's important about the goal that you're choosing, and what would that feel like if you accomplish that goal?
I would feel great. I would be very proud that I took something that I wanted to do and I accomplished it. And also it gives you a good example to help others that are in your shoes to say what you did and have it be something realistic. I think helps encourage somebody else.
Yeah, and in our chat, Annie is talking about all the publications talk about sleeping more too. It's just so important. And we talked with Dr. Kristen Zarfos earlier or last week, I guess it was, and she talked about how it's so important for your brain and can really decrease your chances of getting earlier dementia by really getting enough sleep. It's that important. So it's a perfect goal for sure. So finding your motivating factor, why you want this, what this is going to do for you, what is it going to feel like if you have this, all important things.
Yeah. So in our coaching practice, this is one of the big things that we ask people to do, is to find an anchor. So it's nice to find a physical anchor. Some of the examples that you see on the board, I actually have one of those right here. This is what I look at. My friend from California is a photographer. She sends me all these great pictures, and I picked out one, and it's something I put in my purse or I take to work, and I actually have it up on my dresser, something to bring me back to what it is I'm focusing on, to ground you. And it could be something as simple as a picture, or you could put something on your keychain or on your laptop. And again, it's personal, so it doesn't have to be a picture. Sharon, what's one of your anchors that you have?
So I have one of them on my desk. It's these rocks, just kind of like the rocks in the picture, but they're just stacked. The rocks I found on the beach. And the reason why I have that on there is because it reminds me to have balance in my life, and that, I'm not, it's so important to balance both my home life and my work life and my relationships, all of those things. So I like that as an anchor. But I have to say, a couple of the people that I coached used pictures. So one of my first health coach used a picture of me because it would remind her that I had to do it. And it was an old friend of mine who was my first coaching client. And she put a picture of me to remind her that she should listen to what we had talked about earlier in the week. Another person put a picture of themselves on the refrigerator to remind them of what they wanted to look like.
Right.
So, it can be anything. I'm a big advocate for sticky notes, and I like to put sticky notes around to remind me to do certain things. So it can be whatever works for you, but finding that anchor is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So action steps for preparing for your goal. You really want to get kind of cleaned up and figure out what that goal, when you know that goal and when you really have a SMART goal, a specific goal, then you have to get yourself ready for it. And that might mean clean and throw things out that might be in your way of success. So, whether that's food related or whether that's related to exercise and giving yourself space to exercise or whatever it may be, cleaning up things is very therapeutic as well.
I find that even in your desk area or your work area, one of my habits that I do when I'm at work is before I leave every night, I make sure all the papers are put away. And I know sometimes we have stacks, but you just stack them neatly, just so when you come in the morning, it's not overwhelming to look at your desk and just see all that, because I think that causes a lot of anxiety. So that's a good way when you're saying cleaning out as well.
Sure. Absolutely. And, you always want to, no matter if you have a goal that's related to food at all, shopping for healthy foods is important because it can give you energy for your day and energy to really be successful in your goal. No matter what your goal is, feeling good and feeling energetic is important for all of us.
And then finding your anchor, as we talked about before. And it doesn't have to be any of the examples that we gave you. This is about you, which is the most important thing about the whole habit changing process. So if you're like, I don't like any of those examples that they do. One of the people I was working with said, I just want to picture her mom had passed away earlier in the year. She goes, I want to picture my mom in my head. Who was I to say that's not a good idea? If that's what you want to do, that's what you do. So finding your anchor.
And we talked about the support system too, finding those people that are really going to help you reach your goals. This is one of my favorite little sayings: small hinges swing big doors. And, as you begin to take those small steps toward your goal, you really want to mark and celebrate your progress. You can see it's so important to make just those little steps along the way. With every step, you can feel good about yourself. You can be proud of yourself for any little goals that you're reaching. And one of the good things that you can do is actually journal about it. It's a nice idea to mark your progress and things that are happening day by day, that you were able to accomplish something on the way to your goal. And also to think about how it makes you feel, because every little thing that you do to get to that higher quality of life, every habit you change to make that makes a difference toward your quality of life is worth celebrating and worth being proud of.
And sometimes while you're changing those little things, you kind of fall into something else. You clean up an area like your desk, and all of a sudden you look around and you're like, hey, I need to straighten out this bookshelf. Maybe I'll give these books to Goodwill. So it starts to become, one thing starts rolling into another, which is kind of a nice process.
And lastly, we just want to encourage you to start your own path. If you think about a path like this one that's in the picture, that maybe I'm cutting across the yard way behind my house. I wish I had a yard this big. And I cut across this way to go to my friend's house every day. And what happens is the grass starts to fall down until there's a dirt path along the way. And then I decide, I'm not going to go that way anymore. I'm going to go a different way. and I start to create a path that hasn't been made through the grass or through another area. And what happens is after a long time, that new path has the same sort of path that we see right here. So really, you're making those changes and it makes those pathways in your brain as well. So you think about a habit and you're trying to change your habit, and it's really difficult in the beginning because your brain's like, what's going on? Why are we doing this? We always do this over here. And by changing it and practicing that habit over and over again, your brain starts to switch. So it's not impossible to do. You have habits all your life, but if you practice something over and over again, it is going to lead to a path, and your brain will start to follow that path wherever you want to go.
Well, every accomplishment starts with the decision to try, so you can do it. And like I said before, once you start doing these little things, it really gets you excited, and you start to say, hey, maybe I could do a little bit more. And having that support system is definitely key. So even just listening to this class today, if you walk away and you have just a little bit of curiosity about something you might change, that's a little change happening right there, which is a good thing. So sometimes it's very overwhelming today, but as long as you're trying, then that's the best you could do, and it'll make a better quality of life for you.
Absolutely. And we're here at the Holistic Health Options at the JCC. Thrilled to be at this location. And Karen and I are both health coaches. We're fantastic. We really love to help people. So if you are interested, you can certainly give us a call, and we're happy to help you on your way. And I'm just going to check the chat, see if anybody else has anything. We're just being thanked, but anybody else have any questions for us, or anything to say, anything to add? Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good night.